Hi guys, to be honest, when I downloaded the game, I really didn't have very high expectations, but I'm definitely surprised. It's definitely not the most polished game out there, it's definitely not the most flashy game out there, but for what it's trying to be, it's a simple, original game, and in my opinion, it succeeds in what it's trying to be. Now we have the beta testing of the game, and yes, the game is interesting, we're seeing what the game is supposed to be, but for sure there are some issues in the game which needs to be fixed because this is not an engaging type of game. What do I mean with this is that it's not the most grindy game out there, you're not gonna get emotionally attached to it, and if it doesn't give you a satisfying experience at the beginning, you're gonna quit it. Basically, your daily activities in the game should be do your quests, do the alliance activity, do some PvP battles, the single arena, and that should be it. That's less than half an hour. Okay, an hour, maximum an hour. You're not gonna get engaged in such type of game. So, just want to say the issues which I want to discuss here are not gonna be a balancing type of issues. Yes, Artemia is strong, yes, Zoha is probably overpowered, the Monkey King is ridiculous, but these are things which you can remove very easily. These are very easy to fix issues which I don't think they hurt the gameplay that much. Every single game out there has its balancing issues because every game should have some sort of a meta. Everybody knows there is the strongest thing of something, so that's not a huge problem right now because there is always going to be something. The two main issues which I want to discuss are kind of linked together. The first one is definitely the progression, and that's the experience we get. There are only two ways right now for you to get XP. The first one is leveling up characters, the second one is leveling up skills. That's just inefficient. It creates a situation where you basically have to level up every single character and skill which you get, which is going to lead to very similar accounts. There is not going to be much of a decision happening because you have to do this in order to progress. Yeah, how do we fix that? It's actually very simple. They need to give you a certain amount of XP for winning a game in the duo mode. The game is trying to be PvP focused, so that would make a lot of sense in my opinion. And it also would lead to your decisions are gonna be irrelevant because especially when the real launch happens, we're not gonna have this kind of infinite mana, infinite crystals. So you're not gonna have the mana or the crystals to evolve to level up every single of your characters. Next, let's discuss the most glaring issue in the game for sure, and that's the single player experience. Yes, Lost Centuria is an RPG which is trying to stimulate PvP progression, which is very unique. I definitely like that. That's probably the number one thing I like about the game, but this doesn't mean that the single player experience should be poor or so little. Let's just state out there, the map battles are way too easy. They're too short, there are only 3 levels per chapter, that's just not enough. And they're way too easy in the sense that the difference in points between the last battle of the first chapter and the last battle of the third chapter, for example, is a bit more than 1,000 points. That's just way too low. Especially when the level which you need, the level difference between these two chapters is massive. The first one is obviously you're getting, I think, at level 2, and the third one is getting unlocked at level 6 or 7. It doesn't sound like much, but leveling up is actually that slow. Level 6 is a very long way from level 2. Again, there are many potential fixes. Increase the amount of levels per chapter, decrease the level difference between the chapters. Oh, also something which I forgot to say is that the AI also needs some work because it never counters you. That makes the battles even easier because you can do whatever you want. The AI is never going to counter you. So going back to the fixes, I said increase level, decrease the gap between the levels, but also something which I would love to see is more content, more single player content. And you don't really have to be original with this one, you can just grab one of the many ideas you have out there. Alliance battle of some sort, world boss of some sort. Combine this with more levels, harder levels, and there you go. You can also remove the level barrier at all. Like when you go to the map, you can just start playing from the very first chapter, and you're gonna try to win as much times as you can. When you increase the difficulty, that won't be that much. You're gonna win like four battles. How much are you gonna win? So that's also a way to do it. I personally prefer this way, but you know, it doesn't really matter. So these are the big guns. Now we're gonna go to a bit more minor issues, and the first, it's not really an issue, but let's just discuss counter as a mechanic, because that's the most skill expressive and unique mechanic and feature of the game, and it can be a bit more polished, I think. Yes, it's skill expressive, but it's way too strong. A lot of my games are actually just you wait. And I haven't even played that much. I played the first 3 days and then I took a break because I realized the accounts are gonna get reset anyway, so why should I bother that much? But you can wait, and if your opponent doesn't have an opening, some sort of an opening, then you can just win. The guy who is just gonna have the strongest in terms of pure stats units is just gonna win. That's very uninteractive, boring, and not the way the game should be played. That also goes into the engaging issue, that such type of game can lose your interest very quickly, and that should not happen. Few ideas which I have for this. The first one, when you try to counter, the mana cost of the ability which you're gonna use is gonna get upped by 1. That's a potential fix. You're losing mana efficiency, but your opponent is losing the upper hand. Sounds like trade. Another way is to actually make more characters balanced around this mechanic. What do I mean with that? For those of you who don't know, you cannot counter Shannon's skill. When Shannon's skill starts, the animation of the Shannon skill starts, she's immediately giving the buffs to the whole team, and then there's extra animation like a little fairy dance where your opponent has time to do like one skill, one card, whatever they want to do. But the buffs are immediately coming into play. I don't think there is another one. I really don't think. More characters like this are gonna be, I think, good for the game, because then everybody can just decide one of these opening units. And I also forgot to say that in the single player issue, the office missions are, again, way too easy. Again, that's a really interesting feature. I like it. It really supports the idea of an RPG which is grindy but not really grindy. But they should be just harder. They should be just harder, increase the battle points you need. Yeah, that's kind of it. That's the biggest issue of the single player part of the game. It's way too easy right now. Again, when the launch happens, I do believe that a lot of these issues are gonna be addressed in some way, shape, or form. And yeah, all I want to say is that overall I really like the game. I think there is potential in it, I think there is originality behind it, and despite all I've read, I am actually a fan of the art style. I do believe that real human proportions to these characters suits them, and if we weren't so used to the Summoner's War character design, that would probably be liked by the masses. I do believe that. But overall, I'm curious to see what do you guys think. How do you feel about the game? Do you think that there is something more which can be improved which I've missed? Is the art style really that bad that it's what keeps you away from the game? Are you gonna stick around? Those are the questions which really bother me, because at the end of the day, I'm gonna stick around. I wanna see what is gonna happen with the game. It looks like there's potential in it, and I'm curious to see what's gonna happen, how Kamtos is gonna handle the situation.